All right, folks, so President Trump working to make America great, pulling all the levers that he can, but there's an area that needs local levers to be pulled if we are to stay where we are is in terms of our preeminence and live up to our future potential, and that's education. First, I must say that the lack of faith in the youth is not new. In the 4th century BC, Aristotle observed that they think that they know everything and are always quite sure about it. In the 1st century BC, Horace remarked, "The beardless youth does not foresee what is useful, squandering his money." In a study in 2009, there were 3 types of people they were asked about, the youth, right? Authoritarian people thought that the youth were less respectful to elders. Intelligent people said that the youth were less intelligent. And then older folks who liked to read felt that the youth were reading a lot less. And I can tell you on that score, they're right. And here's the thing. The consequence of this is plunging reading levels against the rest of the world big time. Enter the Mississippi Miracle. And it's been absolutely phenomenal, folks, what's happening with Mississippi. Listen, they've got the highest ever rated student score proficiency that they've ever had. Number 1 in the nation for achieving the highest test scores increases for the 4th grade in math and reading since 2013. Number 9 in the nation overall. By the way, they used to be number 49 and number 50 in math and reading. Black kids there in the 4th grade ranked number 3 amongst their peers. Hispanic kids in the 4th grade in Mississippi ranked number 1 among their peers. It's absolutely amazing. And economically disadvantaged 4th graders, number 1 in the nation among their peers in reading and number 2 in math. I want to bring in now Endeavor PAC founder Tiffany Smiley, along with National Review staff writer Caroline Downing. Tiffany, you're a mom. I got to talk to you. Start with you on this thing. It's Mississippi. It's a state that everyone looks down on, and they took it upon themselves, and it's more than a miracle. It's more than a miracle.
It's amazing. It's American exceptionalism, which you talk about all the time here, Charles, and it shows everyone that it's achievable and it can happen. I grew up on a farm. Neither of my parents went to college, but my mom certainly read books to me, and the library books were free. That there's opportunity here for everyone. Our kids across this country are set back in education, and we've been set back through COVID as well with no plan to catch up. So perhaps this is a model other states can follow.
Caroline?
Yeah, I attribute this comeback really to the science of reading, which Mississippi went back to, where other states still haven't followed in that example. The worst modern education innovation I can think of is social emotional learning, which is this kind of backwards idea that children learn literacy by seeing themselves represented in reading material rather than by the building blocks of learning, which is called phonics. So that, if we can take anything away, is let's bring back the basics of education, arithmetic, phonics, actual reading comprehension instead of these progressive ideas that don't teach kids anything.
Does the point that it's locally driven add to the notion that maybe we don't need to spend billions of dollars at the federal level? I mean, to dictate to states how and what they should be reading?
Well, I think, I think of a state like, in contrast, Minnesota or these other states that are heavy in the teachers unions and heavily federally regulated. Back to your point, that doesn't work. I think we see the model now. It doesn't work. Reading, writing, arithmetic, back to the basics, phonics. Not only that, but also exposure to trades at a very young age, right, because there's multiple pathways to the American dream.
Caroline, you just alluded to this, but there was a piece recently. A professor says that, this is in England, but it's the same woke sort of thing, said that parents who read to their kids should be thinking about how they're unfairly disadvantaging other people's children.
It makes absolutely no sense to me, Charles. Education, reading, is the great equalizer. When you're trying to achieve more economic opportunity in this country, what you really need is education to set you apart from your peers. Otherwise, that's what's holding you back from realizing the American dream. And I think around COVID, we saw this idea with the Chicago teachers unions. They're saying reopening schools is actually akin to white supremacy. That idea, I think, was blown up when we saw the astounding learning loss from children in K through 12.
Right.
Actually, was the minority children who suffered the most under those shutdowns.
Yeah, let's talk about this shutdown now, and I want to talk about it in the sense that I think Democrats are going to come under a lot of pressure, but the recent poll shows that among Democrat voters, their disapproval of their own Democrats in Congress is at 73%. This is astounding. And Tiffany, this is where the Republicans were right on the eve of Donald Trump. In fact, this probably helped usher in a Donald Trump. So here's what I'm concerned about. They're probably going to go somewhere really radical with this. I mean, they could go far, far left or center, but I think something really dangerous is going to happen with the Democratic Party soon.
Yeah, we're already seeing it unfold. You know, we have Chuck Schumer, the key Democrat, who's actually pandering and listening to the far left base and actually letting them put pressure on him to shut down the government and put the American people in front of what's good for them. So the Democrats are showing no signs that they have any leadership in the future, but to be pulled to this far left, we have candidates like Mamdani here in New York, who's by far the most extreme candidate our country has ever had, full stop. So I think it will go far left, Charles, and there will be consequences for it. But I hope that it also establishes a space for conservatives and this exceptionalism and American dream to flourish for generations to come for my kids who are growing up in the America that we face today.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, it's natural for a party that's in the losing side to want new blood and new recruits to make them competitive again. But why do they always have to be radical?
All right, real quick, less than a minute to go, but I had to ask you, particularly Tiffany, this. So apparently there's a woman in Chicago charging $30,000 to name your baby. She actually started at $100. She went to a party and some hedge fund guy said, you can charge more than that. So, I mean, if we ever get over this fertility crisis, should we hire someone to help us name our kid?
Perhaps if we start having that many kids, we will need that service, that business. I mean, there's multiple pathways to the American dream. I would take $30,000 to name your kids. I think my kids have some really good names. Grady, Graham, and Baylor. Strong, solid names. I'd be happy to take $30,000 to name someone's baby.
Well,
there's an industry apparently for everything. There's a business for everything.